In an interview with Chinese state media Xinhua ahead of his arrival, Putin praised China's approaches to resolving the crisis in Ukraine. Speaking alongside Putin Thursday, the Chinese leader said both countries agree that political resolution to the Ukraine issue is the right direction and called for the construction of a balanced, effective and sustainable security framework. An allusion to Beijing and Moscow's shared view is that NATO is to blame for the war in Europe. China hopes for peace and stability in Europe soon and continues to play a constructive role, she said. Alignment on shared frictions. This week's visit marks the leaders' 43rd meeting in the more than 1 decade that Xi has been in power. Xi and Putin, known for their close personal chemistry, have steadily expanded their countries' diplomatic coordination and economic and security cooperation in that time, as both faced mounting frictions with the United States and its allies. Even as Xi seeks to repair frayed relations with Europe and stabilize his country's ties with the United States, he is widely seen as unwilling to sacrifice his partnership with Putin, who the Chinese leader sees as an indispensable partner in reshaping a world order both believe is unfairly dominated by the U.S. and seeking to contain them. This shared worldview was also on show Thursday as Xi, speaking alongside Putin, decried a lingering, Cold War mentality and said, unilateral hegemony, camp confrontations and power politics threaten world peace and security of every country, using language typical of Beijing and Moscow's criticisms of the U.S. and its allies. Putin nodded to Xi's concerns about rising engagement between NATO and like-minded countries in Asia, calling for a reliable and adequate architecture of security in the Asia-Pacific region, in which there will be no place for closed military political alliances. We think the creation of such alliances to be counterproductive and harmful, Putin said following meetings Thursday. Besides engagements in Beijing, which are expected to include a gala marking the two countries' 75 years of diplomatic ties, Putin is also expected to attend trade and cooperation forums in Harbin, the capital of China's northeastern Heilongjiang province bordering Russia's Far East. The region is historically a site of long-simmering border tensions between the two neighbors, which erupted in conflict between China and the Soviet Union in 1969. It has seen increasing connectivity with parts of Russia's Far East in recent years. Putin is also expected to meet with the students and faculty of the Harbin Institute of Technology, a university sanctioned by the U.S. government in 2020 for its alleged role in procuring items for China's military. In an interview with Chinese state media Xinhua ahead of his arrival, Putin praised China's approaches to resolving the crisis in Ukraine. Speaking alongside Putin Thursday, the Chinese leader said both countries agree that political resolution to the Ukraine issue is the right direction and called for the construction of a balanced, effective and sustainable security framework. An allusion to Beijing and Moscow's shared view is that NATO is to blame for the war in Europe. China hopes for peace and stability in Europe soon and continues to play a constructive role, she said. Alignment on shared frictions. This week's visit marks the leaders' 43rd meeting in the more than 1 decade that Xi has been in power. Xi and Putin, known for their close personal chemistry, have steadily expanded their countries' diplomatic coordination and economic and security cooperation in that time, as both faced mounting frictions with the United States and its allies. Even as Xi seeks to repair frayed relations with Europe and stabilize his country's ties with the United States, he is widely seen as unwilling to sacrifice his partnership with Putin, who the Chinese leader sees as an indispensable partner in reshaping a world order both believe is unfairly dominated by the U.S. and seeking to contain them. This shared worldview was also on show Thursday as Xi, speaking alongside Putin, decried a lingering, Cold War mentality and said, unilateral hegemony, camp confrontations and power politics threaten world peace and security of every country, using language typical of Beijing and Moscow's criticisms of the U.S. and its allies. Putin nodded to Xi's concerns about rising engagement between NATO and like-minded countries in Asia, calling for a reliable and adequate architecture of security in the Asia-Pacific region, in which there will be no place for closed military political alliances. We think the creation of such alliances to be counterproductive and harmful, Putin said following meetings Thursday. Besides engagements in Beijing, which are expected to include a gala marking the two countries' 75 years of diplomatic ties, Putin is also expected to attend trade and cooperation forums in Harbin, the capital of China's northeastern Heilongjiang province bordering Russia's Far East. The region is historically a site of long-simmering border tensions between the two neighbors, which erupted in conflict between China and the Soviet Union in 1969. It has seen increasing connectivity with parts of Russia's Far East in recent years. Putin is also expected to meet with the students and faculty of the Harbin Institute of Technology, a university sanctioned by the U.S. government in 2020 for its alleged role in procuring items for China's military.